Dark Phoenix is the final film in the 19-year X-Men movie series and stars Sophie Turner as Jean Grey, who, in a space mission gone wrong, is hit by a cosmic force that turns her into a more powerful mutant. And in this movie, with her newfound power, she turns incredibly unstable and fights against the X-Men family while battling with her traumatic past. I'm just gonna go out and say it, if you are a massive X-Men fan, then you will most likely be very disappointed in this movie. I mean, it got a 22% score on Rotten Tomatoes, and many critics aren't happy about the film. I'm not as disappointed as those fans, mainly because I never really watched X-Men. I mean, the only film that I saw in theaters fully was X-Men Apocalypse, and that was pretty good from what I remember. So because of my lack of expertise with X-Men movies, I'm not as pissed off as most people are. I can't be like, hey, that X-Men movie is so much better than this one. It has the same idea, but it is executed better. You know, I was almost going to watch all of the films leading up to this one, but I just didn't have the time or the patience to sit through all of them, mostly because of work and personal stuff. But I can see how many people are disappointed by this film. I mean, it's like the end of an era, you know, you expect it to finish off with a bang. But sadly, it appears to falter before the finish line. I actually found some enjoyment with this film, but I still have a lot of problems with it. I think the acting is probably one of the only good things about this movie, and that's kind of sad to admit because acting is arguably something that should complement a movie. It shouldn't be the main reason to see a movie, although this is not true in some cases. You've got James McAvoy back as Charles Xavier. He was awesome as always. Michael Fassbender as Magneto. You know, you've got this really rich cast with a lot of talent. Sarah Turner performed pretty well as Jean Grey also. It felt like she could really keep up with the emotional aspects of her character, and that made the transitions feel very smooth. But the main problem I have with this movie were the antagonists, led by this main antagonist, played by Jessica Chastain. It was just horribly handled, and it felt like they were leading to something very big, but nothing came out of it. Also, this movie is shorter than I would have liked, and they could have spent more time elaborating on these antagonists. I mean, they do reveal who they are and what their goals are, but it felt really rushed and was very bland and generic. The beginning was okay, I mean, there was some backstory, I guess, but I would have liked to see more. And the whole movie kind of felt like a setup for the final act, which I really loved and was probably the other really good thing about this movie for me. The train sequence was so cool, and it was almost like it was a different movie in a way. I loved the creative ways that the X-Men used to kill the enemies, and it was pretty badass. Like how Magneto crushed one of the train carriages and threw it back, kind of like one of those cool guys don't look back at explosions montages. What was surprising to me was that the entire third act was actually reshot, and that delayed the release date to 2019. You know, it was originally going to be released in 2018. And I didn't find this out until after I watched the movie. This was mainly because the original third act was like a space-themed battle, and it looked too similar to another superhero movie. Yeah. Also, I feel like throughout this movie, nothing really was accomplished. You know, it was just Jean Grey fighting the X-Men trying to bring her back, and this went on until the third act. And then there was the subplot of the villains. You know, I would have loved to see the full potential of the power that she absorbed. And I feel like the reason Jean Grey got really angry is kind of stupid. Not going to say more because I don't want to spoil the movie, but I mean, it felt like the power she got was controlling her to do bad things, which is very bland and a generic reason. And it doesn't really make sense, but I mean, it's sci-fi and it doesn't have to make sense, so whatever. This movie could have been handled a lot better. You know, after watching the trailer, I thought this movie would be kind of like Brightburn, you know, minus the gore, obviously. But I thought the movie would be a lot darker than it was. There were a few scenes where we got some glimpses of this, but it just wasn't enough. This film could have been so much better. I mean, you should have renamed the movie to Sad Phoenix or Mopey Phoenix or Traumatized Phoenix. The dark just feels like an overstatement because we don't get to see the full potential of Dark Phoenix in this movie. This is one of those movies where if you are a massive X-Men fan, you've seen all the movies leading up to this one, then you will be very disappointed. But if you aren't one, like me, then you won't be as disappointed, I guess. No advanced screenings from where I'm from, not that many people in the theaters. It was going to be released in 2018, but the final act got reshot. Yep, seems like a recipe for disaster. I'm going to rate X-Men Dark Phoenix a B-. You might be thinking, wait, that's still such a high rating. But the thing is, being someone who hasn't really seen many X-Men movies before, I kind of enjoyed this one. It's slightly better than average, for me at least. Although after I binge watch all the X-Men movies later when I have time, my opinion of this movie will probably change. So, Dark Phoenix, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Please leave a comment about your thoughts below. Like the video if you liked it, and drop a sub to help the channel out. Also, feel free to check out my previous video. Until next time.